What if I told you Jamaica is one signature away from slipping into dictatorship? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you will understand why Mark Golding says Andrew Holness is trying to turn Jamaica into an autocracy, and the power moves unfolding behind closed doors. Is Jamaica slowly sliding into dictatorship under Andrew Holness? In this viral political breakdown, we dive into the explosive accusations made by opposition leader Mark Golding, who claims the Holness administration is using constitutional reform as a cover to centralize power and suppress the rights of Jamaicans. In this expert analysis, we unpack the clash between Andrew Holness and Mark Golding, why the Republic transition may have really stalled, what autocracy could look like in Jamaica, the behind-the-scenes power moves in Parliament, what this means for democracy in the Caribbean. You will hear the full breakdown of the Southeast sentence speech made by Mark Golding, the political chess game playing out in real life, and the major implication this has for Jamaica's future. Let's rewind a bit. Imagine this. You're living in a country that's on the brink of becoming a republic. People are hopeful. There's talk of finally cutting ties with the British monarchy. Jamaica standing on its own 2 feet. But then, boom, the whole thing goes sideways. On one side, we have Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who says the plan to become a republic is now effectively dashed, and he's blaming it all on Mark Golding, the opposition leader. But Golding's not taking that line down. He fired back in Southeast St. Anne with this bombshell. I will never support any move towards the suppression of the rights of the people. Whoa, that's not just political banter. That's a direct accusation of authoritarianism. If we become a republic today, who would you trust more with power, Holness or Golding? Choose one name. Let's hear it in the comments below. Autocracy incoming. Let's break this down like a political analyst at 3 a.m. with too much coffee and access to all the receipts. Mark Golding is accusing the Holness administration of doing constitutional reform dirty, manipulating the system not to empower people but to centralize power. Here's the key question. Is this about turning Jamaica into a republic or turning it into an autocracy in disguise? Golding thinks the reforms are being done behind closed doors, that it's less about freeing Jamaica and more about locking in control permanently. Now, why would a prime minister want to delay real reform and then turn around and blame the opposition? Feels like a plot twist from a Jamaican episode of Scandal, doesn't it? Spoiler, it gets juicier. What's really going on? Let's talk strategy. In politics, perception is everything. Holness paints Golding as the roadblock. Golding fires back, saying Holness is trying to bulldoze democracy under the guise of progress. This is more than a turf war. This is about who controls the narrative. At the heart of it, who picks Jamaica's head of state in a republic? What powers will that president hold? And how do we protect the people's voice in all this? Golding is calling for transparency, public involvement, and balance. Holness critics say he wants speed, control, and dominance. You do do the math. And remember, this is happening in real time. Do you think Jamaica is heading toward a dictatorship, or is this just more political theatrics? Drop your unfiltered take below in the comments. What happens if they win? What would a Holness-led republic actually look like? A president appointed with little public input, fewer checks on executive power, a parliament that just rubber stamps everything. Sounds spooky, right? But here's the kicker. If the PMP falls under pressure or the public zones out, it just might happen. Golding's warning: do not fall for the PR. This isn't about liberation, it's about control. That's a bold claim. But is it true? Mark Golding says Holness is pushing Jamaica towards autocracy. Do you agree? Yes or no? Vote in the comments. Key takeaways. Let's break it down one last time. Mark Golding says the Holness administration is disguising autocratic ambitions as constitutional reform. Holness claims it's Golding who sabotaged Jamaica's Republican future. The people caught in the crossfire, watching democracy versus dictatorship play out on stage. And the truth, it's probably more complicated than both sides are letting on. Here's a summary of the highlights and the key points. Mark Golding accuses Holness of pushing Jamaica towards autocracy under the guise of Republican reform. Holness claims Golding derailed the transition to a republic. Battle of narratives, control versus transparency. What will a Holness-led republic actually look like? Real talk, is this a power grab by the Holness government or just smart politics? Let's hear your reasoning below. So what do you think? Is Mark Golding raising a legit red flag, or is this just another round of Jamaican political theater? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the chaos of Caribbean politics, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next scandal could be even worse. One word to describe the state of Jamaican politics right now. Just one. Let's go. Make we talk about centralized power and decentralized government power. Zin, a centralized system of government is often linked to authoritarianism, a regime that gives little to no room for public participation. It is often considered undemocratic. This kind of system is more efficient, with swift and effective decision-making process, since lesser parties are involved. For example, like an opposition party that would oppose certain bills, or an opposition party that you would require 2/3 support from the opposition party to pass the Republic Constitutional Reform Bill. Like the Constitutional Reform disagreement between JLP and PMP. So in other words, under a centralized power, you bypass opposition consent. You don't need them to approve nothing. Under a centralized system, opposition party become obsolete. Centralized system also promotes equality among states due to the uniform laws implemented nationwide. So centralization and decentralization are two different political and administrative structures of a country. So let me say this. However, under democracy now, we already have a centralized state power to a lesser degree, not to the extreme of centralized power as it relates to autocracy or dictatorship. A centralized state, the power is rested in the hands of a government at the center, which is responsible for the decision making and functioning of a country. While in a decentralized state, the powers and responsibilities are distributed among various others across the region. In other words, in a decentralized government system, formal decision-making power is distributed across multiple individuals or teams. That's all it has say. So what that basically has say, in this type of system, instead of the powers being concentrated in the center among just a few hands, it is distributed among local authorities, even at the grassroots level, where each regime may have different features in a decentralized system with varying degrees of autonomy as well. This is often, for example, in America, notice how each state have autonomy. If you govern the state, how them want govern it. Each state is governed different. Florida and New York have totally different state laws. Every state different in America. What you can do in a one state, you can't do in a next one. So that is an example of decentralized government power. Zine, that's why I say America is the closest thing to a real republic, because the forefathers of America restricted their powers when they did write the Constitution of America to limit their powers, so them not take advantage of the people like what the British did do to them. That's why them craft the Constitution that we are there to actually empower the people. Now Golding I say, this is not the Constitution where Holness and his administration have come up with. Golding said this Constitution actually disempowers the people and basically has set up Jamaica to become a full-blown dictatorship. I have always been all for decentralizing government power and handing back the power to the people. So I'm going to play a voice clip and make we hear what Marky G have to say.
And they have brought a bill into Parliament saying that it's a constitutional reform bill. And in that bill, it would allow the Prime Minister of the country effectively the power to choose the President. The President will be the one who replaces the Governor General, who will make appointments to sensitive positions, including the commissioners of the Integrity Commission, when the Prime Minister is under investigation from the Integrity Commission and is trying to take the matter to court to have the offense of illicit enrichment, which he's being investigated for, struck out as being unlawful. You cite the Ray comrades, you see the play, and it gets worse. They structure this bill so that the opposition no longer has more than 1/3, which is the current system in the Senate, and that means that if they call in a state of emergency, they can extend it for 90 days, and another 90 days, and another 90 days, and the opposition will have no power to stop it, because the 2/3 majority will be assured to them, because the president, the prime minister can appoint, is the president to appoint senators as well to take away the power of the opposition in the Senate. That is a recipe for autocracy, for dictatorship, for the repression of Jamaica, and we're standing up to it. We will not support that bill when it comes to the vote in Parliament.
So more importantly, the Prime Minister has yet to come out and refute all of these accusations where Mark Golding has levied against Andrew Holness and his administration. So we still await for the PM to actually, clap back at those accusations. So now we already see, based on past events, everybody and Ray Charles them see, we have a Prime Minister, we have dictatorial tendencies, very evident. Zine, he has been criticized about that on several major news outlets. Zine, so that is no secret. Not to mention, the PM have several run-ins in the past where he was criticized, even when he ended up bringing the needs of trying to do it unconstitutionally, because when did I go do or how he did I go about it would actually infringe on the rights of Jamaicans. And Justice Brian Sykes actually did shut it down the first time, saying it is unconstitutional. So what Golding say, me don't know if it's true enough, but it is not far-fetched. And to be fair and balanced now, knowing all of that, Mark Golding can just, in reality, make up all of this fi discredit Holness because of things that Holness do in the past, so that make it look like say yes, him a wanna be dictator for truth. So all we have to do is look, listen, and see how things unfold in the future.